It is almost September, which means the January 6th committee is expected to take its next steps investigating the Capitol insurrection. Here is what Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger told my colleague Chuck Todd on Meet the Press this morning about the missing pieces in that investigation. Take a listen.
I think one of the more intriguing thing is going to be some of the financing, right? Some of the fundraising, the fact that, you know, a vast majority of this money was raised and under quote unquote stop the steal with no intention of doing anything to stop so-called stop a steal. It was all about just raising money, and people were abused that way. And so there's going to be a lot more of that. And I think we have a lot more to find out still about this Secret Service incident. I mean, there's a whole lot of we're still sitting around like, why don't we have some of these text messages? Why was some of this stuff hidden? And I think we'll get answers to that by the time we can present that to the American people.
Joining me now to discuss is our political panel. Elena Treen is a congressional reporter for Axios. Clay Cane is here. He's a Democratic strategist and Sirius XM radio host. And my friend Jim Dornan is back. He is a political and government affairs consultant at Jim Dornan Strategies. Jim Dornan Strategies, y'all. Welcome to you all. Okay, Jim, I want to start with you because what we just heard from Congressman Kinzinger could really give some insight into the committee's next steps. What do you think they need to do in November? Oh, September, actually. In November, the writing's on the wall.
And it will affect no question. I have the same questions he does. I would like to know where the money went. I mean, look, Trump is raising money hand over fist right now, and none of it's going to even his endorsed candidates. So where is the money going that he raised for that? Well, we know $650,000 is going to the Corcoran or one of the art museums in D.C. so they can have his portrait up there. And I think that these are all serious questions, and donors have every right to know where their money is being spent. So I'll be there with Congressman Kinzinger asking those same questions.
All right. Well, we will be watching. September is coming. I want to play some comments from my interview yesterday with White House Deputy Chief of Staff General Mally Dillon. She talks about President Biden and the White House's recent forceful rebukes, the receipts, if you will, for the Republicans who have been criticizing loan relief. Take a listen to this one.
Well, look, I think the president and the White House are never going to be afraid to call out hypocrisy. You know, whether it is Republican elected officials that are voting against these critical bills in Congress that are going to have real impact in lowering the prices and helping American families, but then go out there on the road and take credit for it. The president called that out this week as well. But I think what you saw is the president being very clear, this White House being clear about how important this executive action was and the real impact it has on American families and students.
Clay, what is your take on this new tone and the effect that it could have in November?
I am loving it, and I'm on the radio 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, and this is what so many Democratic voters have been asking for. They've been asking for a more aggressive tone. They've been asking for better messaging. You know, we always criticize the Democrats on bad messaging. This is the tone that I really feel like people want. But what I also like is Biden is not going to the degree of someone as vile as Governor Ron DeSantis, making insults about Dr. Anthony Fauci. It's still not a low blow, but it's fair, it's aggressive, it's clear, it incentivizes people. And I was in the barbershop on Friday, and you know, Simone, the barbershop, the beauty salon, what I heard in the barbershop, to me, that's a barometer of some success. They are digging where President Joe Biden is going with his tone.
Okay, that's good. The barbershops and the beauty shops, they are the real bellwether for America, folks. Okay, I was there myself last week. You know, Elena, I want to bring some attention to this recent New York Times article. This article detailed months of hesitation from President Biden on the issue of student loans, and mostly out of fear that broad forgiveness would disproportionately benefit rich white students. It also highlights the work Vice President Kamala Harris did behind the scenes to get a plan in place. This report gives us, you know, I think a much better idea as to what role the vice president played. Lots of people are always asking, where's the vice president? It seems to me she was in there fighting for student debt. What is your reporting telling you?
Well, there is a reason, Simone, and I think the New York Times article did a really good job of walking readers through this, why President Biden took so long to make an announcement on student debt. It was a campaign promise of his, and he ran up against the deadline of by the end of the summer, by the end of August, he wanted to make this announcement, and he did that last week, but it's a really difficult and I think risky almost political environment for the president to navigate. I mean, one big reason for this, and you heard in this article laid out as well, progressives within the White House, people like Ron Klain, saying that he thinks this is good policy and thinking that it could turn out progressive voters ahead of the November elections. But at the same time, you have some of the more moderate or more reserved people like Mike Donlin, a very close advisor to the president, as you know, urging caution. And I think that as we saw in the days after the announcement, we're seeing the two sides play out as well. The more progressive Democrats saying that they think this was a long time needed. They think this announcement was necessary, but at the same time, they think there could have been more. They were hoping for more. I know that Chuck Schumer spoke with him many times throughout the year about this and was pushing for $50,000 in student debt cancellation. Of course, it only ended up being $10,000 for those making $125,000 or less, and $20,000 for Pell Grants. At the same time, though, you have people on the right who are worrying about what this will do for inflation. And I think really, and you're totally right, and this article did a great job of this, people like Kamala Harris, the vice president, people like Chuck Schumer in his ear pushing him to do this. And I think the result was he tried to find somewhere in the middle. And he noted, I mean, he said that in his remarks following the announcement. He said there's people who think it's not enough. There's people who think it's too much. He thinks that being in the middle is the right way to be. And that's what they're going to be messaging now ahead of the midterms.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We'll have to see how this is actually going to play. I had some students, some young people on yesterday, and they had a lot of ideas and thoughts. But at the end of the day, they said it's an important step. I want to switch gears and talk about this recent report from Politico, which obtained a recording of a 36-minute conference call between Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel and some major Republican donors. Now, NBC News, we haven't yet to independently verify this recording, but according to Politico, this details some pressure from mega donor Steve Wynn, okay, somebody say Las Vegas, on the Republican messaging ahead of November. He reportedly told McDaniel that the RNC needed to, quote, they needed hard-hitting kind of spots with a man's voice, no soft pedal. They're coming after you if you're a waiter, if you're a bartender, if you're anybody with a cash business. They're coming after you. Clay, this is a lie, okay? The Inflation Reduction Act won't raise taxes on anyone making under $400,000 a year. That's just a fact. But how do Democrats combat this disinformation? Because we're hearing this now. We're hearing it about the IRS as well. What do they need to do?
I got to say this. I have to quote the late, great Aretha Franklin, lies, lies, and more lies. That is basically the entire platform of the Republican Party right now, spitting out misinformation and hoping it sticks. And this goes back to the days of Operation Dixie or the Southern Strategy. So the way that the Democratic Party has to fight back, they have to fight back with aggressive truth. Make sure you have the bullet points. Make sure you show the facts. You know, even when I hear the narrative of student loan relief, well, what about folks making $30,000, $40,000 a year? Well, that's why we have this great thing called the American Rescue Plan or the Infrastructure Bill or the Inflation Reduction Act. The facts are out there, but we see who they are. They are showing us who they are. They are going to try and win by any means necessary, spitting out as many lies as possible and hoping that it sticks to their vulnerable base.
Jim disagrees. I'm just going to speak and register Jim's disagreement. We are out of time here, but Jim, I saw your disagreement. That just means y'all got to come back. Okay, Jim Jordan, Clay Cane, Elena Trine, thank you very much.